This is a letter to myself. Dear 10-year-old me, when you were little, you were so enthusiastic and eager to please, but plagued by self-consciousness and insecurity. If the 59-year-old me could go back in time and visit you, I would tousle your short, tomboyish red hair and look into your eager green eyes to soothe your self-critical mind. I'd tell you that I loved you, that you were wonderful just as you were, and to have faith that everything would work out. You tried so hard to fit in, be liked and accepted, to be anyone but yourself because you felt uncomfortable in your own skin. In your effort to connect with others, you lost touch with who you truly were, becoming a chameleon. When your best friend was a boy, you wore boys' clothes and called yourself Mark. When you had a crush on a boy who couldn't pronounce his R's, you pretended you couldn't either to go to speech therapy with him. When the most popular girl was the star basketball player, you practiced endlessly on your driveway court to make the starting five. You always felt like you weren't enough. As the sixth of 7 kids, you craved love and attention. A devout Catholic then, you got on your knees and begged God to make you more attractive, better at sports, and more fashionable so you could have more and cooler friends, and hopefully even a boyfriend. But no luck. When you left your small Catholic grade school for a large public high school, you felt lost and intimidated by all the kids who already knew each other and seemed so confident. Your parents' strict rules mortified you. No going out on weekdays or watching TV, no phone calls longer than 3 minutes, and no dating until 16, which prevented you from connecting more deeply with others. You fell into a deep depression, fearing you'd never be accepted or find happiness. You tried to commit suicide by drinking rubbing alcohol, unsure whether you wanted to die or just get your parents' attention. You wanted therapy, help, a way to escape these overwhelming feelings. But your parents said no, that we handle this kind of thing in the family, and their solution was for you to offer it up to God. That didn't work, but something else did. You made a friend who was pretty and popular, and she introduced you to alcohol. After your first buzz from a Bacardi and Coke at your first party, your self-consciousness disappeared. You made conversation easily, refilling your cup at the keg, enjoying flirting and being flirted with, and having your first passionate kiss. Poof, all that internal angst vanished, and you became Fun Mary, the belle of the ball, alcohol your fairy godmother. You loved your newfound persona. With each drink, you became looser, laughed easier, and chatted more freely. Even though you drank so much you threw up in a cornfield and felt like hell the next day, it was the best night of your life. It's no wonder alcohol became your solution to social anxiety. And you were very social. From high school, it was off to college, and that fish out of water feeling kicked in again. Drinking fast-tracked new friendships in the dorms and at fraternity parties, and fake IDs let you party like an adult at nightclubs. Vomiting and hangovers became a weekly routine, but you surrounded yourself with others who drank like you and dismissed it as the college experience. You were just young, learning to drink. A part of you knew you were damaging your psyche as well as your brain, but you couldn't imagine life without alcohol, so you pushed those thoughts down, way down. At this point, you stopped praying because you knew what God thought of your behavior, and you couldn't handle his judgment. At 22, you received an offer to spend a postgraduate year at Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland, thanks to a full-ride Rotary scholarship. You arrived excited to meet your extended relatives and to have an international adventure in your family's homeland. Once again, alcohol helped you quickly make a new group of friends. But 7 weeks into the year, you were so eager to join them at a party that you tried to jump over a wall and fell 45 feet. You could have died. Instead, you crushed your heel and broke your back in 3 places. You had to be sandbagged in place in a hospital bed for 3 weeks because you were at risk of paralysis. You told yourself it wasn't about drinking. You'd only had 3 drinks. That was a warm-up act for you by now. You left the hospital after 5 weeks in a body cast and a leg cast and went right back to drinking. Nothing could keep Fun Mary down. After that year abroad, you moved to San Francisco and started your professional career, first in advertising and then in television, 2 industries rife with excessive drinking: martini lunches, happy hours after work, and boozy celebrations. You blended right in, enjoying that drinking and socializing, your favorite activities, were part of the job. The hangovers made your work twice as difficult, but it just felt like a penalty. You believed you weren't hurting anyone. The sad part was you didn't see self-harm as something you needed to protect yourself from. Drinking had become more than just a social crutch by then. Alcohol had rewired your brain to see it as the quick fix for all your problems. When emotional struggles arose, you turned to the bottle to numb the pain instead of facing them directly. When you were 30, your closest sibling, your brother John, died after falling off a cliff, and you drowned your sorrows instead of dealing with your grief. At 35, when your first marriage was falling apart, your solution was to pluck bottles of fine wine from your husband's collection and start drinking daily and alone. After the marriage ended, you began therapy, where you started to understand the toll your lack of self-worth had taken on you, but you shied away from being honest about your drinking. You knew there was no way you'd give it up, so you kept telling yourself you'd get a handle on it. You threw yourself into excelling at work and being a good friend and family member, thinking that would make up for your drinking struggles. But it didn't. There was always a lingering sense of shame after a blackout, a hangover, or a drunken mishap. And then at 39, you married a good man who loved you wholeheartedly. You moved to the suburbs and quickly had 2 children, Irish twins, and your drinking became a home-based ritual. A glass of wine to unwind after work, another with dinner, and a third as a reward after the kids went to bed. It helped you feel like you were still fun Mary amid all the domestic and maternal changes. Once you decided to quit your job to stay home with the kids, a whole new social world opened up, the mommy circle. You quickly gravitated toward the drinking moms, hosting each other for happy hour play dates, wine always at the ready. Kid birthday parties always seemed to have plenty of alcohol, and yours were no exception. You served champagne at your son's 5th birthday. Alcohol made everything seem more fun. It made the mundane festive, but your drinking was chipping away at the foundation of love, trust, and respect in your marriage. You tried to hide your blackouts and hangovers from your husband whenever possible, and when you couldn't, he made it clear how much it upset him. Your children also suffered from your drunken, distracted behavior. While you loved being home with them, the reality was that it could become boring and lonely at times, and a glass of wine felt like a party of one to get you through. One day, you got blackout drunk in front of the kids in broad daylight, teasing your 5-year-old son not to slip off the noodle in the deep end of the pool because you didn't want to put down your wine glass to save him. That moment was your wake-up call, showing you that your drinking was risking your children's safety and well-being. The next day, on August 8, 2011, you took a big risk for love. Even though you couldn't imagine a future without alcohol to celebrate big occasions like birthdays and weddings, as well as everyday moments like watching TV and hot tubbing. Even though alcohol played a starring role in family gatherings where mixing cocktails was your special bonding time with your dad. Even though a couple of drinks helped set the romantic mood on date nights with your husband, and wine was the centerpiece of your girlfriend get-togethers. And even though you hadn't gone a day without drinking in years, despite the fear of losing your fun Mary identity for the past 30 years, you finally surrendered and asked God to help you overcome your addiction. Full of shame and dread, you dragged your hungover self to an AA meeting and admitted you were an alcoholic. Breaking down in tears, you shared that you feared that quitting drinking would be the death of fun Mary. You had no idea who you'd become or how you'd cope without alcohol. Still, you figured a boring and safe Mary was better than an impetuous, fun one, especially if you wanted to stay married and retain full custody of your children. After completing the 12 steps of AA, you realized that alcohol wasn't your fairy godmother after all. It was a thief that robbed you of learning how to deal with life authentically. You believed alcohol had the power to make you feel connected, understood, loved, funny, exciting, and happy. In sobriety, you learned it was actually a barrier to all those things. At first, you were resentful that Fun Mary was such a fool to have fallen so completely for alcohol's allure, but over time, you have made peace with her. Fun Mary appeared in your life with good intentions, to save you and pull you out of your fearful, self-critical shell and into the world. She just didn't have the confidence that you could do it without alcohol. But you could, and you finally did. You have now lived alcohol-free for nearly 14 years and have rediscovered your true identity. You are smart, sensitive, loving, thoughtful, and fun-loving. You finally achieve self-acceptance and are content. Life has become so much better than your boring, safe predictions. You've become a more present mom. Your relationships with your husband, father, and friends have strengthened thanks to your emotional vulnerability and honesty. You are fun and sober, and you've regained your sense of self-respect and self-worth. It took you until age 45 to begin trying to laugh, worry, love, and mourn without alcohol, but that's when you were ready, so sobriety arrived right on time. As I picture my 10-year-old chameleon self who still lives inside me, I embrace her in a warm hug and tell her, "I'm sorry for treating you so recklessly. I know how much I hurt you. I'm now strong enough to protect you. You are important, and even though you've been through hell, you are beautiful inside and out. You will discover who you really are and find your purpose. You will conquer your drinking demons, and you will still be fun. Anyone would be lucky to have you in their life. I'm just happy you're in mine. I'm very proud of you, and I love you very much."